you don't just sing on For True Love, a celebration of Cole Porter, which is great to hear you, by the way. You also arranged, you played the piano, and you conducted the orchestra.
Right.
Did you leave anything for anybody else to do?
Well, you know, it's funny. So I've done arranging and orchestrating and conducting probably since I was 23. And my wife, Jill, always says, why don't you tell people about that? She said, I get frustrated that people don't know what you do. I said, they don't need to know that. That's kind of behind the scenes stuff. She says, I really think you should tell people everything that you do because people would appreciate that. And she's been telling me this for 30 years.
You should listen to your wife.
This took me 30 years, but I finally said, okay. So I wrote the arrangements and orchestrated them and conducted them and then sang on them and played on them. So it's a complete vision of how I want the music to sound.
So would you define yourself as a perfectionist?
Yeah, in a weird way, because I want to do what's perfect for me, but within that perfection comes a lot of imperfection. For example, when I sang these songs, they're one take. There's no pitch correcting and editing and all of that stuff. So the imperfection is part of the perfection for me. So you just have to kind of know when to accept it and when to let it go.
I knew about the arranging, I knew about the songwriting, and of course the singing and the playing, but the conducting, I'm trying to imagine you with like a baton. Do you love that?
Oh yeah, you know, it's great. And there's, I remember the very first album I conducted was my first Christmas album when I was maybe 23 or 24.
I have that.
And oh, that's so nice. And I was going to the studio and there was about an 80-piece orchestra there that I had written all the arrangements for, and I realized on the way to the studio that I didn't have a conductor's baton, so I stopped at this music shop and there were like a bunch of them like on the wall. I'm like, I'll have number 7D. That's the one I normally use. And I got in there and I remember the feeling of kind of raising my hands to start the music and then starting the music and thinking what an immense feeling of power I had, you know, getting these musicians to play the music that I wanted them to play. So yeah, the conducting is a huge part of it. A lot of people go to symphony concerts and they see the conductor and they're like, what is that person doing? But it's getting the musicians to that point that's really the fun part.
If you ever watch Mozart in the Jungle, it's all about the world of conducting.
Oh, very cool.
Fascinating.
Very cool.
Cole Porter, one of your favorite singer-songwriters of all time. You've been singing his songs your entire life. How did you approach these songs differently than how you've sung them in the past even?
I just took the songs that I liked and started from scratch. Like I would look at the lyrics just as a piece of poetry or prose and think, what is this song saying? What does it mean to me? And then I would take the chords and the melodies and, you know, as they were written and then try to build something new with that. I often compare it to what an architect may do when he's remodeling a house or what an interior designer does when they go into a new space. It might be, the bones might be old, but you can do things to it to modernize it and to make it feel relevant today. And Cole Porter doesn't need a lot of help in that department with modernization because his music is pretty timeless, but they're just new interpretations.
Do you think of him when you're working on your arrangements?
I did actually in the whole process I thought about him a lot because he had a very complicated life. He was a really interesting guy with a fascinating history, a lot of heartache in his life, a lot of joy, and you know, elaborate parties. And you have to keep in mind he was born in 1891, so he grew up, you know, hanging out with people like Stravinsky and Picasso, and it was amazing, and just a fascinating man. So I did think about him and what maybe got him to write the things that he wrote. Why did he write these things? So it was a really cool way to study him.
In an Instagram video a couple of months ago, you posted a video of you asking your daughters, of which you have 3, what true love means to them. So how did your definition of true love influence this album?
The true love is kind of the undercurrent of everything for me. What I think true love is, which is my family, my faith, my friends, the things that are really, really important to me. If those things are intact for me, then everything else, there's a word we use off the air, we were talking about Cajuns and the Canadian influence. There's a word called lagniappe, and it means a bonus. And everything else is lagniappe to me. So all of the music, all the art, the fact that I get to come here and talk to you about the things that I love to do, the traveling, that's all a bonus. So the true love is the place emotionally where I feel I'm happy with the things that mean the most to me, that allow me to do the things that I love to do.
Oh, I love that so much. You and I have a bit of a true love connection that you don't know about. So I'll be married 20 years this year.
Oh, amazing.
And the song I danced to with my husband was It Had to Be You.
Oh,
but
that's
your
so
version
nice.
and your arrangement from When Harry Met
Oh,
Sally,
I'm
which is one of my
honored.
favorite movies.
It's
yeah.
amazing.
So we hired a big band. We
Oh,
had a
my
singer come.
gosh.
We tried for you. You were not available.
You
So,
should have called me personally.
Yeah, next time.
That's
time
amazing. You know what's crazy about what I do for a living is that I go in the studio and I make this music because I love it so much. It's not anything but passion for me. And then when I hear a story like that, like I didn't know that about you, and it's amazing that something that I love so much can impact somebody else. And it's, you know, I don't take that stuff lightly. It's a real honor.
It's your version too, and it's the one we sing to our kids, and when it
That's so
comes on, we're like,
nice.
this is Daddy and our son.
That's so nice.
I'm going to read this because I want to make sure I get it right. I don't want to leave out any numbers. You have had 3 Grammys, 2 Emmys, 2 Tony nominations. You've sold 30 million albums, acted on the big and on the small screen. You were a judge on American, I mean, really, you've done it all. You even hosted your own talk show, but which of all of those gives you the most joy?
I love doing all of these things. Like when I was hosting the talk show, I was writing all the music for my band. I was studying.
Of course you were.
Yeah, and like just like getting to know people, and I love that. When I'm on Broadway, I love being on that stage 8 times a week. When I'm in the studio, I love it. So for me, it's really about living in the present. Right now, I'm talking to you, I'm having a great time. I could care less what I'm doing a half an hour from now, and what I did a half an hour ago doesn't really matter. It's really about what's going on right now. So I get so much joy out of so many different things. I'm just lucky that I have a chance to do all of those different things.
Yeah, you do. You have done so much in this 30-plus career. I'm curious about your advice for, you know, instant celebrity. There's a lot of instant stars right now. They're singers, you know, they've got their big moment, but what's your advice to like make this career last for 30 years and still love it as much as you do?
I think you have to practice your craft, and you have to be prepared for opportunity if it comes your way, and you have to be truthful with yourself. Who am I? What do I love to do? You can't worry about anybody else or what's popular or what's trendy. If you're a pop artist, you know, that's kind of maybe what you think about, like what's the hippest sound that's going on right now, and that's all fine, but it needs to come from a place of self-actualization. You need to know who you are. What are the things that are important to you? Because I'm telling you, in this business, it can go away in about 2 seconds. I mean, it really can. And if you don't have the things that really matter around you, my daughters could care less if I have an album that's #1 on the charts. They're proud of me, but you know, it's really not about that. It's about the things that are really, really important to you. So that I would say, practice your craft, and you know, work on the things that are really important.
Keep those people close to you.
Oh,
that are
yeah.
important. Speaking of success, you just received a star on the Walk of Fame. You were surrounded by your family, your daughters and your wife. What was that moment like for you, and the fact that you are so close to Cole Porter's star?
It was freaky. It was really surreal.
And that wasn't planned?
It was planned by the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, who issues those stars, but I didn't know. Somebody, my manager knew, but they were kind of keeping it as a surprise. But it was profound. I mean, that's like the permanence of that is something that I don't think about that stuff in my day-to-day life. And when they called and said, we want you to have a star on the Walk of Fame, I'm like, wait, what, really? Because that's when and then they start reading off all the things that you've done, and you know, it's kind of embarrassing because I'm kind of a forward-moving person, and you know, my wife is out there, and her eyes are filled up, and my daughters are there, and my manager's there, and it was just like, whoa, this is really unbelievable. And the fact that it's next to Cole Porter, I mean, it's not like 10 feet away. It is, you can almost touch them both at the same time, and it's, man, it's mind-blowing.
That's a beautiful image. You were talking about Jill. You said you would be nothing without your wife. You met in the early 90s. You've been married for 25 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you describe your relationship? And then how would she describe your relationship?
I think we describe it the same way. We love to make each other laugh. We both take marriage really seriously. This is not something that we want to do again. We want to get married one time, and I totally understand that doesn't work for everyone, and sometimes things happen and people end up splitting up. But as you know, you've been married a long time too. it's a great place to be. I was talking to a single friend of mine the other day, and he was saying, I'm thinking about settling down and getting married, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I call it settling down. I think it's more blossoming and achieving new heights, because as you go through the world with this person that you trust and respect, you develop a sense of the world that is much more deep and fulfilling. So it's actually more exciting for me doing things with Jill in my life than it would be without. So I think we describe it the same way. We're each other's best friend, and we love hanging out.
I do things in my life I wouldn't have done if I didn't have my husband with me.
Of course.
Things I wouldn't have tried.
Yeah, that, and then just looking across the room at somebody and not having to say anything and knowing exactly what they're thinking, and also looking at that same person and not having any idea what they're thinking. I mean, Jill is so mysterious, and now I have 4 mysterious women in my life, so I spend most of my time trying to figure out what these women are thinking, and that alone is a full-time job.
You need some sort of special award or some sort of star for that. Let's talk about your girls. What makes being a father of 3 daughters so special?
Oh, it's just impossible to articulate. Watching them, as a parent, you impart your values on your children. You love them as much as you can. You try to make sure that they're healthy and happy and well-educated and all that stuff. But underlying all that is your philosophy about life, and your wife's philosophy or your husband's philosophy is what you want to watch them kind of grow with and learn with. And now to have a 23-year-old, a 22-year-old, and an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, to see those values manifest themselves in ways that we could not have predicted, because they're their own people. We always wanted them to be these, strong, driven women, but to see that with some specificity now is like mind-blowing. Like, we're seeing it happen. We're not seeing decisions I would make or decisions Jill would make. We're seeing the things that they want to do, which are different than the things that we want to do. But watching them go on dates, watching them study the things that they like to study, learning from them. It is like, I just thank God that for that blessing, because it's the single greatest feeling in the world. There is nothing better than that.
Do you find there is one that is more like you? Because it is hard to raise yourself.
Yeah. Thank God I'm not raising myself. I would have been out a long time ago. I would have hated. My parents deserve Parents of the Year. I was a mess. I think they're all like me in certain ways. Like my youngest daughter, Charlotte, we all have things in common. They're all like Jill in a way. Jill is very centered, very calm, and I'm a little bit more kind of wacky and impulsive. And so they have elements of both, and it's really cool to see how those things come out in their personalities. But I think I see myself in all of them for sure.
What is your best piece of dad advice to other parents? You've been doing this a long time.
I guess just love them, and listen to them. And my mother died when I was 13, and I hear stories of my mother from people that knew her when I was even really young. And they were children and knew my mother, and they say, we loved about your mom, she never patronized us. She never, like, if it was a girl to walk in and say, oh, look how pretty you look today, or she would never, like, talk down to them. She talked to them like I'm talking to you. And I always remember that. And I think about, like, the discovery process. Like one day I was rushing Georgia off. She was like 2 years old. We were going to the park. We had to go to the park. We had to go see the ducks. And she squats down like little kids do, and she picks up a pebble in the driveway, and she starts looking at it. I said, come on, George. I call her Peach. I said, Peach, come on. We're going to the park. And she just ignored me and looked at this little pebble, and it occurred to me, like, she's never seen a little pebble before. So stop what you're doing and try to appreciate what they're doing, and go through these experiences with them. I don't know if that's advice. That's just a couple of things that came to mind, but you just love them and care for them and pray that they find the peace and happiness that you want for them.
Good advice. What is a typical day like in your household? Because I imagine it's a busy one.
Not really. It's not. We don't really have typical days. Like when I'm on the road, I'm working a lot, and when I'm home, I just kind of kind of cool out. So 2 of my daughters are in college, and our third daughter's homeschooled. So she's home all the time, and we just like, we'll watch movies and go hang out or just stuff. We just do stuff.
Just time.
Just time.
in,
Yeah. Nothing really. Nothing really predictable.
Hey, it was a real thrill to meet you and to chat with you today. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here. And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.